But the truth is, and this is a lesson, if we would have doubled and tripled down, if people would have been willing to take that risk, we would have made a huge killing coming out of the recession.
Welcome to the Fueling Deals Podcast, the podcast that teaches how to accelerate your business growth through all types of deals. It's time to fuel up, so buckle in with your host, Corey Kupfer.
There are only two ways to grow your business: organically through sales and marketing and providing great products and services, and inorganically through deals. Too many companies focus only on the first way, organic growth. Welcome to the podcast, which will help accelerate your business growth inorganically. My guests are a huge variety of deal makers and experts on all types of deals who have personal experience that can help you grow, get clear, learn best practices, and avoid mistakes. We've discussed everything from large, complex mergers and acquisitions to smaller deals that you can do even without significant capital. Today is a solo cast, and I'm going to do something a little different today. On the solo cast, I often talk about deal principles, or I may talk about, I've done roundups of other people's deals, in terms of big deals in various industries. I want to talk a little more personally today because I'm not only a lawyer who does deals for other people, but I've done many of my own deals as a deal maker. And frankly, some of them have done very well and some of them have not done so well. And there's lessons that have come from them. So I want to share some of those personal lessons and personal journey, from my entrepreneurial and investing and partnership career. So as many of you know, or if you've ever seen my bio or heard a little bit about my story, you know that I've been an entrepreneur since I'm 15, meaning really I had a business at 15 that had employees, although not really according to the, real payroll when I was 15. But I had people working for me. I used to deliver flyers door to door working for somebody else. And then I stopped on the route as I was doing that and got my own accounts. I'd stop in stores and say, hey, if you need flyers delivered, we can do it. And I don't know how, frankly, in hindsight, as a 15-year-old kid, these stores gave me the accounts, but they did. And I had friends working for me, and I would ride around on my bicycle and check up to make sure that they were putting the flyers in the doors or the gates. Which was usually a job of an older kid who drove, but I didn't have a driver's license. And I built a business that I'll date myself, 1976, 77, 15, 16 years old, 17 years old. I was making like $300 a week, which was a huge amount of money in that day and age for anybody, certainly for a 15-year-old kid. So where does deals come into that? Well, that was actually, so I created a nice cash flow business, but then at age 17, I went away to college in 1978. And what I didn't do was a deal, actually, that in hindsight, if I would have known there were such things back then, I could have actually done a deal that I did not take advantage of. And what was that deal? That was, I had clients, I had accounts, and I had sort of a system, and I had some people who, kids who were working for me, and I knew the business. And, that business theoretically, or those accounts, was theoretically sellable. I don't know how much of a market for it was, but there's probably some other enterprising kid or older kid. These crew chiefs who work for these bigger companies, usually in their early 20s. I'm not saying I would have gotten big bucks for it, but it's just something as a 15. Actually, by the time I left for college, 17-year-old, I didn't understand enterprise value. I didn't understand that I had something that was an asset that could be sold there, and didn't realize it until many years later. And don't regret it. I was very happy to have that business as a 15-year-old kid, but it was interesting, in hindsight, that there was a deal to be made there that I did not make. When I got to college, I was also pretty enterprising, and I did a bunch of things. And one of the things that one deal I was able to cut was I became, in my last 2 years in college, there was a beer distributor named Clear Rose. And Clear Rose this is in the days when the drinking age in New York was 18. And so pretty much everybody in college could drink. And when I started in 17, they didn't check. At Stony Brook, where I went, there were a lot of parties on campus, and they would, Clear Rose would deliver beer, 5 kegs, 10 kegs, 15 kegs, 20 kegs, big, college parties. which in later years when the drinking age went up after I left there, they cracked down on. But it was a different time when I was in school. And Claire Rose didn't want to deal with 100 different kids. So they had two reps on campus, one for each side of the campus. And I was able to negotiate a deal to be their rep, exclusive rep for my half of the campus. So anybody who wanted, people could drive and go pick up a keg or two, but if anybody wanted kegs delivered, which you needed to have when you were getting 10, 15, 20 kegs, then they had to go through me. And basically, I had a deal with Claire Rose where I had a wholesale price from them. I was essentially like a distributor as a 19, 20-year-old kid, whatever I was. And they sold to me at a wholesale price, and I got to sell at a retail price to anybody in college who needed kegs. And I actually set that price. So I can make whatever profit I want, whatever the market would bear, so to speak, and depending on whether you knew me or you didn't know me. And I also got this great beard paraphernalia, like in college when the lights and the signs were all cool and able to have that swag to give out to people. So that was an interesting, distributor arrangement that I had with Claire Rose. And it was pretty lucrative for me and also got me into every party free. So that was kind of fun. When I graduated college, went to law school, pretty much focused on law school, and what I really did then was much more work during law school to get experience at General Foods and then at a law firm. So I didn't really have much going on in the way of deals until I graduated. Shortly after that, I had a friend who had a computer company. I had a little equity piece in that. Frankly, that didn't end up going really anywhere. But I sort of that was my first sort of investment in a side business. I've done a number of those since, whether it's with clients, contacts, whatever. Some of which have been very successful, and a number of those went nowhere. One of those, which was a very interesting case, client still to this day with another business that he has. He had a company. I won't speak specifically about it. He had a company that I thought had an interesting model. I worked with him from almost the startup. Shortly after he started it, we helped him expand nationwide, and we had created a vehicle for him because he had given away some equity early to like his tech developers and that kind of stuff. And he didn't want to give away any more equity in the company because he had, in hindsight, but maybe given away a little too much. And he needed to raise some more money. So we structured a deal for him that was what I call the participation interest. He had revenue coming in from real estate firms for a reporting that he did on schools, and we created an investment where people could put in money and then get a percentage of the revenue from a particular territory that these real estate agents were paying. So there was no equity given, but it was a percentage of revenue that this contractual arrangement allowed people to do. So I did that for clients, not intending to invest, but then he wanted to fill out the investment and needed some more money, and he asked me if I would invest in it, and I chose to, and I told him I would only, that I wouldn't negotiate the deal because I didn't want to be in any conflict of interest situation, but I would just take the terms that any of the other, buyers negotiated or investors negotiated any changes. So whatever they did, I took. And that turned out to be, after some ups and downs and some interesting times, and things were tough at some point and looked like, he might not make it. I, always had confidence in him in that business, and that investment turned out very, very well. And in fact, there was a point at which that client owed us about $80,000 in legal fees. And I had two partners at the time, which was another deal, obviously, to be in a business partnership. I've had a couple of them. That business partnership was good for, a good period of time and got us established. And then at some point, our interests diverged. We had different views of our relative values to the company, what we brought, the direction we wanted to go in, and we went our separate ways. But at that time, I was still in that partnership, and we had an opportunity. The company had some debt, and one of the things I was helping the client do was to have people convert that debt to equity, and because the debt burden would, needed to be reduced. And of course, that was risky, but I felt that the company had inherent value. It had phenomenal data, and it was actually moving. This was in the early days of the internet, and it was actually moving that data online. And I felt that database was worth something, even if the company didn't make it as a going concern. And I also thought that it would, continue on in any case, and had value to be bought. Well, I get outvoted. It was interesting. I had two partners at the time. I had started the firm, but we had added a third partner, and our approach was to, vote by majority vote. And those guys didn't want to convert the equity, and we would have gotten to convert it at a multiple, not dollar for dollar. And it would have turned out, when the company did get sold, we did get it sold. We would have made 3 times on that money. That 80 would have been 240. I did triple my money on my personal investment, but which by the way also converted to equity. They converted those participation interests to equity. So so I tripled that and would have gotten my share of the triple and the 80. But when you're in a partnership, you don't always get to make those decisions. So that was a deal I would have done that I couldn't do because I had been outvoted on the legal fee portion of it. There's a whole other set of deals that I started getting into real estate, and after doing some of that work with clients and learning a little bit about it, and I would see some opportunities sometimes, and there were, and I made some investments that did well, made some investments that did okay, whatever. But the bigger deal, like the deals that really had huge opportunity, not necessarily because they were huge in size, although some of them were, but also because, there was just huge opportunity either to take a property and turn it around or that kind of stuff. The great opportunities, you needed to be able to act quickly. And at that time in my career, in my 20s, it was actually really more in my 30s, my early 30s. I didn't have the kind of capital that where I could personally take advantage of some of these opportunities. And there were a couple of them that I lost that I knew would have been great deals. But, by the time I tried to go raise money, somebody else had come in and snapped them up because they could just write a check. So that triggered me to get into a business partnership with a friend where we created some real estate investment funds. And the theory was that these were going to be, discretionary funds, meaning that they weren't deal-specific funds. We raised money, put in some of our money. We raised money from other people to create a fund that we controlled, meaning my partner and I, the investment decisions on, and we had the money available for what came up. And we did some nice deals in that fund. We did some condo conversions that worked out really well. And then we ran into some trouble with it, to be honest, because we had purchased most of the stuff like multifamily buildings in 2007, late 2006 into 2007. Of course, as most of you will remember, the 2008, 2009 Great Recession came, hit the real estate market, very significantly. And here's an interesting point about that. We had actually done everything we told the investors we would do in terms of being able to raise rents in the buildings and that kind of stuff, but ended up in some trouble with the one building specifically because of vacancies, because of the economy. And then, some of the other, buildings were sort of limping along. And we actually went back to the investors and suggested they double and triple down for 2 reasons. One, to have enough capital to carry these buildings through the tough times because we knew they would come back. And 2, because the same type of buildings that we bought at what were decent prices for the market at the time were now down 20, 30, 40%, close to 40% in some cases. And they were bargains. Now, of course, in the recession, everybody's running scared, especially the Great Recession, when Bear Stearns was getting gobbled up and Lehman went out of business. And, it's natural for people to run afraid. But if you study markets, and I've talked about this before, the people who make the most money are the ones who are smart in the down markets and invest when things are cheap. So we went back to our investors and we said, hey, we should be doubling and tripling down here. We'll make a killing. And you know what? We couldn't raise the additional money. So what that caused is us to have to sell a couple of those buildings. One of them was the one that was really in trouble was taken back in foreclosure. Another one we cut a deal on, and then we eventually sold. Another one. And we ended up getting people back a chunk of their money, but not all of it, which at some point it looked like we might lose everything. So that was not a good result overall, but a good result compared to what the worst thing would have been. But the truth is, and this is a lesson, if we would have doubled and tripled down, if people would have been willing to take that risk, we would have made a huge killing coming out of the recession because, we tracked those buildings after it, and those buildings, sold at, only, if you went five years out, let's say 2013 to 15, 7 years out, those buildings were back up and well beyond what we paid for them. And of course, the buildings, if we would have paid 30% less and bought a few more buildings, as we had suggested, we would have made huge money. But listen, it's, that's the game of deal making. If you can't raise the money, you can't make the investments. And people tend to run scared when things are tough, and they get over exuberant when things are good. And that's the exact opposite of what you should be doing. But it's human nature. That was with those deals. Like I said, I've been in a couple of law partnerships, and I'm now back being the sole owner of my firm. And partnerships are like marriages. They're not easy. You deal with almost everything you deal with, that you deal with in a marriage, absent the sex. You're dealing with money. You're dealing with personalities. You're spending a lot of time together. You're dealing with different vision and alignment. And I don't regret anything that I've done in terms of being in those partnerships. Although I've learned a lot from them, and I've learned that it's important for me not to be myself and to stand for my values and to stand for the culture that I want in a firm. And there was one situation where I let that slip. I mean, I was able to sort of protect and defend my people, but overall, there was definitely cultural disconnects and vision disconnects and integrity disconnects in my mind. And in hindsight, I think everything works out perfectly. But in hindsight, maybe I should have moved out of that a little earlier, recognized it a little earlier. But listen, we learned from that, and I got some great relationships out of that, and it's actually been helpful overall to my career. But you live and you learn. Partnerships can be great when there were phenomenal synergies in a number of these economically. But they also need to have this shared vision and the shared culture and the same sort of level of integrity to really work. And we've had some people on the show talking about that stuff. And so it's interesting for me because I'm always looking at deal opportunities, whether it's any kind of strategic alliances or joint ventures. I value, I have a lot of companies that I work with. For example, on this podcast, right? I could have done it all on my own, but I partnered with a company that does this. Stephen Weston's company, Predictive ROI. I was a guest on his podcast. He has a very successful podcast, and he's worked with a number of companies not only to launch podcasts, but also to create ROI, to create returns for the companies on podcasts. And my decision was to partner with that company and Predictive ROI on my podcast. When I did my book, my Authentic Negotiating book, I partnered with Advantage Media, who is a turnkey business hybrid business publisher that works with the whole model is to work with entrepreneurs to help them get books published. I could have self-published. I could have gone the other extreme and looked for a deal with a major publisher. Which, by the way, my wife has a deal with a major publisher. A little plug: her book is coming out January 21st, and it is called The Calling. And it is for people who want to find really what they're here for in life and how to make it into a successful business that is true to who they are, that makes them money, and that has them make a positive impact in the world. So look out for the calling. In fact, it's on pre-order now and on Amazon, and I would love it as a personal favor of me. I mean, if you know me, if you like my content, if I've provided any value to you, it would be a big it would mean a lot to me to support my wife's book. This is unlike me, where I did a hybrid business publisher and I had a specific business strategy around it. She has a major publisher book deal. She had several publishers bidding on it, and it's very important that this book do really, really well. And the book is amazing. So that's the deal that she did, and I'd love your support on that. I usually don't pitch a lot on this show for any of my services or whatever, but I do want to pitch for my wife. So The Calling, it's on Amazon. Please pre-order it. If you pre-order it, you get into our insider group and get access to our course. I would love that support. And again, so she did that deal, that publishing deal. So my wife, also does deals in her business, which I'm an advisor on and help her with. So, where it used to be the old commercial where for the what was it called, the hair club for men or something, where the guy used to say, I'm not just the owner, but I'm also a client. I don't just do deals for other people. I don't just preach deals. I do deals myself. I love doing deals. I think partnering with other people, doing strategic alliances, investing. I mean, I haven't talked about the various things I've invested in. We've got a bunch of us from EO have a little group together where we put some money together and made one investment into a carbon fiber business, and we're going to make some other investments. So there's a number of deals that I'm doing on my own, in addition to working on hundreds of deals for clients. I just believe in deals as an opportunity. It's, so I eat my own cooking, so to speak, and I've learned a lot from them over the years. I think, the more deals you do, the more experience you get in vetting deals, the more experience you get in doing due diligence on deals, the more experience you get in figuring out who to partner with, what type of people you work well with, whether it's in a business partnership, strategic alliance, joint venture, anything like that. And that's some of my history. I hope it's been useful to you all. Again, I talk all the time about organic growth and inorganic growth, or what we're starting to actually talk about as deal-driven growth. And you want to do both, right? Organic growth is crucial. If you can't make a sale of your product and service, then you shouldn't be in business. If somebody doesn't want to buy it, subscribe to it, pay for it, however your model is, then you can't be in business. But if you combine that with deals, then you have an opportunity to grow more quickly. You learn a lot more about yourself, and you can achieve certain objectives that you may not be able to achieve as quickly, as easily, or at all by purely organic growth. And I believe in that model as well. So with that, folks, I'd like to thank you, Fueling Deals listeners, for tuning in. Remember, there's only one difference between companies that grow inorganically and those that don't. And it's unrelated to size, amount of capital, or any other factor. Other than that, the owners and executives of companies that do deals make a decision to do deals, and then they take action. Well, it's time to refuel. So until next week, Corey Kupfer signing out.
Thank you again for tuning in. Be sure to leave Fueling Deals a rating and review on iTunes and Google. Check out all our episodes at fuelingdeals.com to find out more resources to accelerate your business growth.